So a verse that I wanted to share with you today says, one evening on that first day of the week, when the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." It's hard to keep your mind on hope when you're surrounded by hungry sharks. There's something about imminent and perilous danger that kicks reason and especially hope right out the door. How can you focus on something that you cannot see when something that you can see is about to take a big bite out of your life? Time like this calls for action, no self-examination. Sometimes life's problems, especially those which stir up fear, are far too frightening to deal with gently. At times like this, striking out wildly, kicking with all your might be the only alternative to being gobbled up out by our fears. Life has its sharks, and that's for sure. And doesn't it seem that they often make their appearance when we least expect it? When we already have enough trouble up to our chins? We're barely coping at that. Sure enough, you can count on it. Just when you think that things can't get any worse, they often do, and you are left thinking that you have that helpless, sinking feeling of having nowhere to turn, nowhere to grab onto. So kicking and screaming, you may have worked out for a while and being able to keep going, keeping your wits about you, barely, keeping you afloat maybe. But now this added burden is just too much to bear unless someone reaches out and takes that burden from you. The sharks will have their day. There was a man called Walter White, and he was only 65 minutes of his life. But on December the 5th, in 1986, he attempted to fly in his flight. He was in his aircraft. He attempted it after thieves had stolen his navigation equipment. Now that just says to me, why? But he thought he could manage it. So he went in his aeroplane and began to fly. It was a beach craft, and he thought he could cope without this navigational equipment. With only a compass and a handheld radio, Walter flew over skies blackened by storm clouds. When his compass began to gyrate, Walter concluded that he was heading in the wrong direction, so he flew his plane beneath the clouds, hoping to spot something. But soon he knew he was lost. He put out a mayday call, which brought a Coast Guard Falcon search plane to lead him to an emergency landing strip only 6 miles away. Suddenly, White's engine coughed its last and died. The fuel tank had run dry around 8 p.m., and White could do little more than glide the plane into the water. White survived the crash, but his plane disappeared very quickly, leaving him bobbing around on the water in a leaky life vest. With blood on his forehead, White floated on his back. Suddenly he felt the hard bump against his body. A shark had found him. White kicked the intruder and wondered if he would survive the night. And he managed to stay afloat for the next 10 hours. But in the morning, White saw no aeroplanes, but in the water, a dorsal fin was heading for him. Twisting, he felt the hide of the shark brush against him. In a moment or two bull sharks had sliced through the water towards him. Again, he kicked and the sharks, and they veered away, but he was nearing exhaustion by now. Then he heard the sound of a distant aircraft. When it was within half a mile, he waved his orange vest. The pilot radioed the Cape York, which was 12 minutes away. "Get moving, cutter," they said. "There's a shark targeting this guy." As Cape York pulled alongside, a Jacob's ladder was dropped over the side. White climbed wearily out of the water and onto the ship, where he fell on his knees and kissed the deck. He'd been saved. He didn't need encouragement or better techniques. Nothing less than that outside intervention could have rescued him from the sure death. How much we are like Walter White. In that mournful first day of the week, Jesus' disciples were gathered in a room, helplessly lost amid a sea of hungry Jewish sharks. The situation couldn't have been any more hopeless or filled with doubt. Their Jesus was dead, and their world would have been turned upside down in a matter of hours. One of their own had been a traitor, and no doubt thoughts of who it might have been were running through their minds. The disciples had come to a crucial moment in their fellowship. They had gathered together, but the gathering was filled with fear, not hope. Little comfort could be found amongst such a group. No doubt they tried to be brave, tried to come up with some plan that would give them a scenario for tomorrow. But in the end, as hard as they tried to come up with something positive, something to give them hope, the threat of persecution and death hung heavily over their heads. Who or what could save them? With fears of doubt bumping along, it left looking at them left and right, they had little ease. Then Jesus appeared, and he spread his peaceful greeting over their fears. The Jacob's ladder had appeared in the nick of time. They were saved. Pure mercy and life replaced sin and death that had been swimming around them. His hope became theirs, as it does yours and mine. Sharks? Bring them on. When we have Christ in the center of everything that we do, we never need to be afraid.